Welcome to iBest English Centre, free online IELTS lessons. Today we're going to look at IELTS Speaking Part 1. We're going to look at the topic of colours. This is not an easy topic to have in Speaking Part 1, as most students do not have a good range of vocabulary for colours. So today we're going to build our vocabulary in order to aim for the higher band scores, and we'll also look at some common questions in this topic and how to answer them well. Let's start by looking at the colour blue. Of course we all know this colour, but do you know the different ranges of blue? Let's take a look. Electric blue, deep blue, navy blue, sky blue, pale blue, pastel blue, turquoise. Now let's look at how we can use this vocabulary for the colour blue in a common question. One of the most common questions for this topic is, what's your favourite colour? Now remember, this is Speaking Part 1. That means it's a short answer question, and therefore your answer should not be too long. You need to answer directly, but remember to add a little bit more to show the examiner that you're willing to speak. This is essential for any student aiming for band score 6 or above. So let's look at two possible answers for this question. I just love blue, particularly sky blue. It's so restful and relaxing. Oh, definitely pale blue. I painted the walls of my room that colour, and most of my clothes are that colour too. In the first answer you can see that we talked about liking the colour blue, and then if you want to say which kind of blue you like, you can say particularly sky blue. To expand the answer more, you could also explain why you like the colour by adding some adjectives. So here we've chosen the adjectives restful or relaxing. So think of the colour you like, think of some adjectives of how that colour makes you feel, and this is the way to build your answer. Don't forget that in this answer we've also used an intensifier. That means something to make it stronger, make the adjective stronger. It's so restful. This means it's very restful. It's very useful to use these intensifiers, so, really, very, because you can also add intonation into your voice. It's so restful. This will help you get a better band score for pronunciation as well as vocabulary. In the second answer, you can see that we immediately give the colour. It's given very directly and very strongly. Oh, definitely pale blue. We've also expanded the answer by talking about where or when we use that colour. So for example, it's used on the walls of my room, or my clothes are that colour. Looking further at the answer, you can see that we're also using very good grammar. We are using grammar that refers back to the colour. So for example, we say that colour, which means pale blue. Referring back is very important for any student aiming for a band score 6 or above. Let's look at the colour green. Dark green, sea green, bright green, light green, pastel green, lime green. Let's look at another question and see how we can use the vocabulary we've learnt to build a strong high band score answer. I think, given the choice, I'd choose light colours. I'm particularly fond of light green and sea green as they remind me of nature, so a lot of the clothes I wear are that colour. I'm not really fussy. I like both dark and light colours, but I suppose if I had to choose, I'd go for dark colours, like dark green or something. Let's look more closely at these answers. So with answer 1, of course, we've got good vocabulary. We've got the colours light green and sea green. But what else do we have that's very good in this answer? Well, firstly, look at the expression in the first sentence. Given the choice, I'd choose. This is actually very high band score language. But if you want to use it in the exam, you need to use it naturally, with the correct intonation. So let's practice. I think, given the choice, I'd choose light colours. You can see that when I say given the choice, my voice goes lower. Listen again. I think, given the choice, I'd choose light colours. You can also hear that the speed is different. Given the choice, is spoken much more quickly. Also, I'd choose is a conditional. So, of course, a conditional is higher band score. So, the first sentence in this answer is very, very good. Another piece of good language is fond of. This is instead of the word like. It's a very nice paraphrase, and of course, if you are looking for the higher band scores, paraphrasing and offering different kinds of language and synonyms is very important. Another way to expand your answer is to say what something reminds you of. So, of course, by saying they remind me of, it's not only good language, but it's a very good technique for part 1. Looking at the second answer, we can see more examples of good language. So, let's look at the beginning of this answer. I'm not really fussy. What does this mean? It actually means I don't mind very much. I don't mind this colour or this colour. I'm happy with most colours. That's the meaning. And of course, the word fussy is very high band score. It's very unusual to use this word. Usually only native speakers use it. So it's a wonderful expression. I'm not really fussy. Also, when you're saying that there are two things that you like, you need to say both. I like both dark and light colours. Again, the more accurate and flexible your grammar is, the better your band score. Now let's look at the conditional part of this answer. If I had to choose, I'd go for. So here you can see it's the second conditional. If I had to choose, I'd go for. So we've got I had and I'd. I'd actually means I would. But if you're aiming for a higher band score, then you need to show good pronunciation. And this also means contractions. So you don't say I would, you say I'd. Please remember, this is only for speaking, not for writing. And of course, we've also got very high band score language with go for. Go for is actually a very good synonym for choose, but it's only used for speaking. So both of these answers give good grammar, very good vocabulary, and they're expanded very naturally and very well. Now let's look at a range of vocabulary for all different colours. Blue-grey, plum, cream, pale yellow, bright red, ruby red, burgundy, khaki. Let's look at two example answers for this question. Yes, they were. I remember when I was around 6 years old, I loved plum and purple, and my room and clothes were all in that colour. I think it lasted a few years, and then I changed to ruby red. Not really. When I was younger, I didn't have any favourite colour. For example, my room was painted sea green, and many of my clothes were blue or brown. Another common question for this topic is, were colours important to you when you were a child? In the first answer, we have a very good technique for expanding, and that is, I remember when. It's very useful to talk about your memories. In fact, you can introduce your memories in many questions in part 1 that are about yourself. When you're talking about your memories, it's very good to give the approximate date, or you could talk about your age. So here we can say, I remember when I was around 6 years old. There are 2 things I would like to point out. Firstly, the word was is pronounced was. When I was around 6 years old. And we have the word around, which means about. It's very nice to actually add this extra information to be more accurate. I remember when I was around 6 years old. And of course, it's very good to talk about your memories because you're going to offer the examiner the past tense. If you're aiming for band score 6 and above, you really need to show the examiner that you have good control over the present simple and also good control over the past simple. That you can speak in the past tense without any effort. And in the second answer, we're also looking at our memories. When I was younger. And again, the word was is pronounced was. When I was younger. You could also say when I was a child or when I was a teenager. If you wish to do well in your IELTS test, you will need professional training in exam skills and the requirements of IELTS. At iBest, we make sure that students get the right advice and tips in how to perform well in their IELTS test. You also need to learn how the speaking test is assessed by getting to know the public band score descriptors published by IELTS. Getting professional feedback on your level and development is also very important. And finally, make sure you are trained by an experienced teacher who understands the IELTS test fully. And lastly, please remember IELTS is a language test and not a memory test. Please do not memorize the answers in this lesson. These answers are given to you as examples to show you how language can be used and the techniques for expanding your answers. Please don't memorize them, just learn the techniques and pay attention to the vocabulary and grammar. To do well in your IELTS test, please remember to speak naturally. If you wish to learn more about IELTS or receive professional training for your IELTS exam, please contact us for more information. This is brought to you by iBest English Centre, a centre that focuses on IELTS, English and TOEIC.